Hey y'all, welcome back to the Because Adulting is Hard podcast. I'm Elita, the host of this podcast, as well as the owner of the Funky Monkey. And this is again my friend Mandy Benedix. We've been doing this a little while. I think this will be the third time we've seen you. But for those people that are just hopping on to see us, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company? When we get together, we like to just talk about real things. That's how we've been friends for 17 years probably. Yeah. We just talk about real things. So today we're going to talk about belonging and fostering belonging. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Mandy. I appreciate getting this time with you. Thank you. I am the owner of Rooted Together. So Rooted Together is an organization that seeks to provide experiences that bring people together, that root them to resources, to each other, because life was never meant to be done alone. So we're still fleshing out what that looks like, but that's the idea. So.
Yes. And so as we continue to watch you grow, I'm super proud of you. We're going to actually talk about your book. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's do that now. You have a book. You just won an award for this book, correct?
Yeah.
So this is your book. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Made to Impact, it is a guide to living a life that outlives you. And the whole idea behind that was also making sure that we're able to put into the hands of people information that helps them just be better.
And one of the things that I love about this book and the format of this book is anybody that's followed us for a long time, I'm super dyslexic, I'm ADHD. This is written for a student. There's questions at the end. It's written in a you can read each chapter. It gives you one tool set and then a question. For me, that's an appealing way that it's an easy to read. We have this available in the store as well as online. I will hook all of that up to this podcast. So let's do it. Let's talk about belonging.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The last 2 times we've done this podcast together, I've come in with 3 points and it was all pretty fleshed out and kind of, ready to present. And literally this morning, as I was praying, that this has been something that you and I experienced together this week, and just something that was really on my heart in that space. So I don't have notes in front of me. It's coming straight from my heart, right?
But that's how we roll, right? I mean, the 3 Post-it notes on the thing.
Yeah.
And, we speak from our heart because it's who we are.
Right. And so this idea of belonging, I think it's one that a whole lot of people in different arenas have struggled with, right? And so when you walk into a space that you've been invited into, whether it is something at work, a relationship, a conversation, how often do we walk into that space and convince ourselves that we do not belong? Convince ourselves that they got it wrong, convince ourselves the imposter syndrome, right?
Right.
And so we were at an event, this big business conference, and we're laughing the whole time about, I think, how did they let us in,
Right.
And so I think it's just the need to intercede in that space and disrupt people's thoughts, because we do belong. We do belong. We are needed in that. And so I really just wanted to kind of talk with you through that idea of why does it matter how we walk into that room?
Correct. Belonging to me is fostered over time. It's not fostered over various situations. And I think that you have to surround yourself with a business coach. One of the things that my business coach we've worked on from the beginning has been dreaming bigger than you are right now, seeing a big picture, knowing that you belong, knowing that you are worthy, knowing that you are able to take that next step. And how does that look when you're monetizing a business and doing that? So that experience, I literally texted Mandy 2 days before, maybe the day before. One day I'm going to stand on a stage and speak with you on stage, right? Knowing in the back of my mind, my worst fear known to man, like something that's going to make me die, is that's anxiety, right? That's what anxiety looks like.
Right.
Was to stand on a stage in front of people. But I did it. I didn't die.
Absolutely.
But I've also surrounded myself by people that have made me feel like I belong.
That's
let's go through
That's
what belonging looks like.
Yeah, well, let me give you a good example of how we sabotage that for ourselves, right? So I get to speak in front of a lot of different groups. I've been invited in front of groups that I walk in and I go, I do not know how I got on this agenda, but my answer is yes, right? Yes and amen. And so I used to stand and I would always start my talks with something like, hey guys, well, I'm not a high paid consultant and I don't have a master's degree and I don't even know really why I'm here. That's how I would start. So as I look at that now, I think, why should they believe in me? Because I've just given them all the reasons why they shouldn't believe in me, right? When they didn't have that prior.
I have to tell you this. We're probably going to go over the 10-minute window here, but I have to tell you this exact example. I put in my mind, I want to go to city council. I want to talk about a skate park, right? The first time I went, I looked at Trish Hanks in the front row, former superintendent, but she's a teacher, right? She sits right in front of me. I'm going to say exactly what I need to say to Trish Hanks. I don't care who else is in this room. I'm going to say what I need to say. And I started that conversation exactly like that. I am so nervous, but I'm going to say what I have to say. One of the other city council members, Steve Rocky, said, please never start a conversation, just right there in the room. And he said, don't start the conversation. So when I went up to the stage, that's the first thing I thought. I'm just not even going to tell him I'm nervous. I'm going to say this 12 words that I can get out of my mouth, because what they taught me, I went back to city council the second time and I said, hey, I'm back. I just didn't have enough time to actually tell you everything that I needed to tell you last time. Here's your packet of information for the skate park that I want. But I learned, right? So then you're belonging in the room. This was the next step to that. God has opened a way in which I had a first step, a second step, but we're going to go back to that belonging thing. Yep. Why did it never occur to me that I belonged in that space?
That's right. And the thing I also realized that when I stand up there and I negate all the reasons why I should be there, I am taking this really big God that gave me this invitation and opened this door for me, and I am shrinking him. Not that that's possible, but
it is in the magnitude of your impact.
And that's not fair.
The magnitude of your impact, when you can't see your potential is bigger.
Right.
It goes back to bigger than self, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we in action coaching, we do that BFO, right? Blinding flashes of the obvious is what we call that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, this is one of those things
Yeah.
that I have to work through. And belonging, an interaction between you and I, was very much that way. And why would that be? Let's go back into that thing that we were talking about.
Yep.
How do we make people feel like they belong? How do we welcome them to the table?
Right.
I'm going to say the thing I said about the Turquoise Table book. I like the book. I like the concept. You're welcome to my table, but it's very only if that's your style. This is the way I want to interact with you. Come to my table. What we're saying is a little bit different. So let's talk about that.
I think that there's things you can do daily that make people in that moment feel like their story is enough. You want to know more of it. You are intrigued. You're leaning in. You've used that phrase before. So tomorrow at work, when I talk to somebody and say, hey, how's your weekend? And they start to tell me, if I stop what I'm doing and I lean in for that minute and I'm like, really? That's so awesome. When did you get that pool? Oh, are you enjoying it? Have y'all had in that space? I am letting them know they belong in this conversation with me. I am not too busy. I am not too important. My title does not make me so important that you telling me about your weekend doesn't matter.
Right.
So this is not just about feeling like you belong when you're invited onto a stage, because not many people will be in that space.
Correct. And I actually think that was a lesson for me. I am part of coaching, any type of coaching, fitness coaching, eating coaching, is learning to know what your vision is. My vision is small space. Like I know that if you know me personally, I typically meet with you one-on-one. If you're in my outer circle, I'll meet with you in a group. You know, if you're far out, you're in that's big for me.
Right. Right.
So, but that tells me a lot about me and where I'm going on my mission to belong and my mission to bring people, same thing like you, to know their worth, their belonging.
Right. And so I really want to continue this conversation, in our next or the next. I just think there's so much here that people need to hear right now in every area at every age, that you do belong. And if you don't believe that, then why do we get angry when other people don't believe in us?
And what are the skill sets that we're going to continue to work on to teach? Because there are tangible things you can do to help, a tool that you can give people to make them feel like they belong.
And I'll just end by clarifying, it is not waiting for people to make us feel like we belong, because nobody can make me feel anything.
Correct.
It is internally walking into a room with the confidence and your head up and your shoulders back, knowing the work you've put in, knowing the passion you have for that thing, whether it is a room of single moms, whether it's a restaurant, whatever it is, walking into that space, seeing people and believing internally that you have something that can impact in that space, no matter how big or small that it is.
And that thing that you're good at, that thing, that's what you should be doing. That thing that you hear, I am impacting in this, that's where it's at. So we're going to talk about this again. I'm so grateful for your time. Every time that you come on here, I would recommend as you continue to follow Mandy that you're looking at her on her social media. Where can we find that?
So primarily Facebook. Still working on it. Facebook is the way to find me,
and that's my primary source too. I dabble in the others. I don't really get it. I'm growing Facebook. That's where I want to see people.
Yeah,
we'll find you on Facebook. Where is that?
So Rooted Together is the Facebook page.
We'll hook all of that up top. And then again, a good place to start if you're trying to learn from Mandy is with this book. It's in store. It's also online. We'll hook it up top. But this is a good beginning guide to how do I find how I impact? How do I find what my impact is? And that's not just something you're looking for. It's not something you're chasing. It's not education.
You already
have it. Just be it. Be authentically.
Right. Yeah.
So thanks again. And as always, I like to close out. Remember to live happier because adulting is hard, and that's the truth.